Thanks, Jeff, and good morning and afternoon, everybody, depending on where you are. My name's Dave Cliche with Aon, and today I'd like to talk with you about some targeted acquisition and retention work that we're doing up in Canada. Let me tell you a little bit about Aon first. Aon is the largest insurance brokerage, risk management, and human capital consultancy firm on the planet. I work for a business unit called Affinity up in Canada. What that means is I am focused on providing insurance solutions to large national sponsoring entities, such as an association with a defined membership, and then providing insurance solutions to them through a variety of different channels. And this is sort of where our little journey has started this year. So I'd like to share with you some of the work that we've been doing up in Canada. Before I get into it in detail, though, what I'd like to do is just share with you the strategic priorities that sort of led us to where we're at. Based on our business proposition, my priorities are probably not unlike many that each of you face. We need to figure out new ways to get new business. Could I, in Canada, develop new business opportunities in the SME space that we weren't properly focused on? What new business or new revenue opportunities were there within our existing customer base that we weren't taking full advantage of? Second thing, from a retention perspective, we got to keep the business that we have. We needed more proactive retention strategies, and we needed to grow that existing base and get a little bit more sticky with our existing customer base. We need to prioritize these opportunities, making sure that we're only biting off what we can chew, using such things as cost to acquire and retain, capacity to serve, existing product availability to help us create some sort of criteria for prioritizing so that we weren't, in fact, overextending ourselves and we weren't, in fact, venturing down a path that we weren't able to complete. Also, making sure that we had operational alignment, so ensuring that we had execution and deployment discipline so that something that we started we could actually complete properly, and making sure that we're aligning the support going forward around making sure that delivery is executed faithfully in the best interest of our customers and taking into account their feedback throughout the process to make sure that we're improving and continuing to deliver good value. Based on the premise that your client needs should always determine what your strategy is, and ultimately whatever structure it is that you deploy to meet them, making sure that we're fulfilling that as we try to meet those priorities. So what we quickly realized is that in order to live up to those priorities, how could we take my existing business unit, so the Affinity unit, which again, sort of that focus on predefined selling to predefined targets, how can we take a business unit, transform it into a business model so that we are able to apply broader acquisition and retention strategies to a broader group of opportunities? Could we use that as a platform to venture into the SME marketplace in Canada, into that B2B component more broadly? Could we better incorporate the truer Affinity business opportunities that existed there? And could we also take a look at cross-sell opportunities for more B2C products into a B2B space, and then start to really understand, what it's going to take for us to venture into that space, what type of thinking do we need to start to deploy, which, for a company that's been primarily focused on B2B and sort of upper-end mid-market and larger companies across Canada, recognizing that going into a smaller SME space where B2B behavior mirrors quite closely B2C behavior, bit of a transition in thinking, as well as, how we apply existing business models to deliver revenue there. And that sort of led us to realize that, maybe our brand plays a little bit differently in this space. But we knew we weren't starting from scratch. So we knew we had some existing assets that we were going to be able to deploy there. We already had an online presence in the smaller space that was focused on, not just the professionals operating within our Affinity area, but also the small business owners. And then about this time, about June of 2010, Aon launched into a very significant sponsorship with Manchester United, the British Premiership soccer club, that allowed us really, I think, significant potential to brand in this space to support the efforts while we were there. Manchester United is the largest sports franchise in the world with probably the most recognized sports brand I'm not sure how many of you are avid soccer fans or that follow it, but as you can see by this next image, every time Manchester United plays, Aon's brand is given significant prominence. And, we needed to make sure we were incorporating this into our thinking as to how we would use this potential for brand recognition and brand awareness as we venture into a space where we really haven't played before. And our recognition with a lot of our target customers from a brand perspective is going to be minimal, probably at best. This, really gave us something in our back pocket that we could factor into our thinking. So we embarked upon a mission to sort of transform the way we think. Could we take a business unit and realize its potential to become more of a model? We started off by leveraging our existing customer data. On the affinity side, we already dealt with a lot of small businesses, albeit within a few select key segments. We also dealt with a lot of professionals within these segments. Within the healthcare segment, for example, we had a good understanding of a physiotherapist, for example, across the country. We had good understandings of massage therapists and other healthcare professional designations across the country. We also learned a lot from our business in this space because a lot of these professionals were, in fact, also business owners in this small space. So we actually were, able to glean a lot of data from our existing customer network and give us a pretty decent baseline of what the needs and the requirements are to satisfy small business owners among a few key business segments across the country. From that, we could actually start to determine what the acquisition patterns look like because we could go back and take a look at how we were able to penetrate a segment over time, what were the types of things that were successful for us, what were the types of things that, we could learn from and improve upon, and also take a look at what it required to retain them over time. So we were able to really get a good baseline understanding of across, again, a few key segments in the country where we already had really good presence at the small business level. Okay, so what I'd like to do is just review with you the approach that we're taking to try to get to the heart of this. We've tried to boil this down, this transforming a business unit into a business model into, 5 simple and easy steps. The first one, market sizing by segment. So really trying to get an in-depth understanding of the Canadian business marketplace. There are approximately 2.3 million registered businesses in Canada. We have a data file with 1.4 million of them. So that represents about 60% of the Canadian economy. So that's not a bad place to start. To challenge anyone to try and get 100%, we're actually quite happy that we had good data integrity on 60% of the Canadian marketplace. What we decided to do is to further segment this data by both industry segment, by the SIC code, and that's the Standard Industry Classification Code that every business, as far as I know, any business anywhere in the world receives a categorization of an industry classification code, which really does describe the nature of the business. In Canada, there are about 1,000 of those codes that we've mapped the 1.4 million records to so that I can roll them up nice and neatly into an industry segment and know exactly how many opportunities are within that particular segment. And then we, of course, further matrix that geographically as well so that I understand where in the country they fall. Once we sort of have that, because we already have a decent presence there, we need to back out what our market share there is. But really now that we have that, we're able to sort of get a better sense of what is the size of the opportunity. We're having a very basic understanding of what the insurance requirements might be. But for that 1.4 million, I now have a good sense of where they are, what they do, how many of them there are, and what the revenue opportunity is to go after them. The next step, and probably one of the most critical, segment research and analysis. So instead of presuming that a small business owner in Canada has the same needs as another small business owner in Canada, we can, with relative comfort, make the leap that the owner of a healthcare clinic is going to have needs that are quite similar to another owner who runs a healthcare clinic, whether it's massage therapy, physiotherapy, acupuncturists, or what have you. And I'm just using the healthcare segment as an example, but we, with relative comfort, could sort of see that there are going to be similarities there, where that physiotherapy clinic owner might, in fact, have very different needs than a corner store owner, like a retail outlet owner. So we had a sense that, there were similarities, but we really needed to validate, so we weren't making any presumptions when it comes to product and the channels that we decided to get into for this. We defined a methodology for going out to them, including qualitative, quantitative, and online social audits. Really, again, just targeting more of a demographic profile. How can we better understand the purchase behavior, their channel preference? Can we get some indication of what those behavior influences are going to be and the values that are most important to them when they're making a purchase decision? I think in any business strategy initiative, you've got to let your customer needs drive your strategy and then ultimately determine your structure. I think there's a lot of danger in doing that out of that order. So we were very clear about, we can define the size of the opportunity, but we can't just jump to designing products and putting strategies into the field until we truly understand what it is it's going to take for us to get close to that customer and truly understand what their needs and requirements are. Use the results of that research to drive product development. Now that we know what it is that they need, now that we know what it is that's important to them, can we feed that into our product development process? Can we use that to drive our pricing strategy? Can we use that to determine how we make the product available to them? Because not all insurance products are the same. What is it about what works in in our broader customer experience, whether it's in the mid-market or with a large company, that we can translate and replicate for a smaller customer? But then again, what is it that the smaller customer needs from us that maybe we haven't done before or that we have to consider differently? Really use that research to drive the product development component. Once that's done, we can really start to take a look at what's our go-to-market strategy now for this segment. How can we take all of those things that we've learned? How can we understand, what our message strategy needs to be? What content is going to resonate most with these customers or these potential customers? What channels do we need to put this stuff into so that it reaches them and it's actually a channel that they're going to use when they go looking for it? These customers, small business owners, as I'm sure everyone can relate to, are very, very busy people. They seek and acquire information maybe in a different way than a larger corporation or a larger organization. They often wear many hats, these business owners, and they are the owner, they are the chief of finance, they are the accountant, they are front desk reception, they are customer service, they are claims resolution, they are everything. How can we make sure that we're getting this stuff to them in the most appropriate way? And how can we cost that out? So one of the things we needed to be able to provide our executive and at the company with is that, we've segmented 14 segments across 2.3 million businesses in Canada. We've done significant research into each one of these particular segments. We understand now from a product and from a price perspective what we need to be able to provide to them in order to penetrate. We have go-to-market strategies in place. So understanding the size of that opportunity, I now have the ability to forecast what the cost to acquire X percentage of that is, and then ultimately how much it's going to cost us to retain them. Can we help the organization prioritize those opportunities so that we're going after the ones that make sense first, the ones that we're better able to deliver on, those ones that require more investment? We can actually plan for that over a longer period. And then it leads us to the fifth step on this, which is execution. After having those discussions, those fact-based driven discussions about where we want to invest our efforts, we can now make sure that we're aligning the organization, putting the proper structure in place, defining the proper roles, assigning the right responsibility to the right people to ensure that we actually deliver on it. We are still in process. So, we are currently putting research in the field. We have initiated some of the baselining from a product availability perspective, but this is still very much an ongoing project, so a very exciting one for us. I would love to be able to come back to you and tell you how it turned out when we finally get there, but at this stage, that is the way we're approaching, again, a very precision-based marketing approach, specific attention to the acquisition and subsequent retention of new targets in the SME space up in Canada. And I hope that was helpful. I hope it made sense, and happy to take any questions. And Jeff, back to you.